We're looking at bridges. Now, what do we know about bridges? Is everything that you do know and what you don't know at the same time. Now, one fascinating thing about a bridge today is it does everything. It takes people from one point to another. Stone bridge, you can technically take animals across it, human beings, traffic, absolutely everything. But in the past, bridges were seen to be constructed for specific purposes, not to take everything across, i.e. the viaduct is a great example of something that just takes water. But in fact, the viaduct is very much a form of a bridge anyway. But it just carries water, but it's a specific type of bridge.
Viaducts are for road.
You are correct. You have just corrected me quite correctly. Viaducts are for trains and roads, and aqueducts are for water. Thank you for correcting me, Bill. You just did a Dorothy, not a Dorothy there, a doodah. Right. Anyway, let's get straight into this. Bridges. We have got a map of Anglo-Saxon London, and these walls here are the outline of the Roman walls. Anglo-Saxon London is a very interesting spot that we actually start to look at bridges in Britain. Practically all the bridges, other than one that we look at today, is actually in Britain. Bridges in Britain go all the way back to the Neolithic period. Much older than Anne, but not Dorothy. Anglo-Saxon London, don't look at me quite shocked, Dorothy.
No, I was looking at your map with your finger.
I love maps.
I love maps.
I love maps. I love maps. But anyway, looking at this, immediately you can see the word bridge, and the association is with Athelred, who comes into the story, and Athelred comes into the story associated with the year 1014 and the wonderful rhyme, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down, London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Don't know where the fair lady comes in there. It comes from 1014. That goes. It's over 1,000 years old. That, and it's associated with the original London Bridge, which was probably a Roman bridge that was pulled down. But there's a whole story associated with that we'll come on to.
Would it be a ferry bridge?
No, it's a proper bridge. But as you when I did this on Tuesday, after immediately starting, I let one of them talk, and he said, "Oh, we were trying to find the ferry down on the Severn crossing." And he said one thing that we did find out was that in the area there's lots of evidence of a Roman ferry, not a physical Roman ferry, but evidence that people were chucking coins into the river. Apparently, the Romans were really superstitious, and when they would cross water, they would chuck a penny into the river. The river Styx, that type of thing. And they found lots of coins at the point where the ferry would have actually left on the opposite side of the River Severn. So that's how they know the ferry left from there. And also, when we think about trying to work out where Roman bridges are, all you need to do is look for stuff in the river, and then it's probably in that locality. Moving on, but you're talking about that's the ferry bit, okay? But these are proper bridges. These are proper plinths with a superstructure of stone or wood on top. So, very, very interesting image. This is basically an image of just the period before the Great Fire of London. And what you can see there, immediately you've got Traitor's Gate, the bottom part of the image, and you've got the buildings going over the old London Bridge. And these buildings were all sited along the old London Bridge. It is. It is. And the interesting thing is that changed the concept of what a bridge is, doesn't it? A bridge is actually a home, when in fact bridges, as we started off with viaduct aqueducts, bridges are supposed to carry things, but actually places where people live, which is really strange. It's not really strange when you go to places like Cambridge, places like Venice. People live in bridges, a bridge above a canal or a river. So that changes what a bridge is actually about.
Where did you say Traitor's Bridge was?
This is London Bridge, and that's Bridge Gate.
Right.
And that's another Traitor's Gate, because the other Traitor's Gate is as you sail into the gateway at the Tower of London. But this is the other Traitor's Gate. So as you're heading into southern London, those are all the traitors.
Do you think they were commercial because there was access to people travelling?
Yeah, it is. It's a commercial enterprise. A bridge is a commercial enterprise. Those who control the bridge, like George, he mentioned the ferry. You control access across a river. It's the same thing. You control access. You can make a lot of money out of it, because if you're trying to get into London, the river at that point is still quite wide, quite deep, quite treacherous. Okay, and you would have to go a very, very long distance to get all the way around the River Thames to actually get into London. So you may as well pay something to go across.
The modern day equivalent is the Ponte Vecchio in Florence. There's shops all along each side there, thoroughfare, on the bridge come over.
That's it. So we should be shopping, you know. When we immediately look at something like this, do we think anything like this existed in Roman Britain? The answer is yes, and the answer is no. We do know that a place known as Pierce Bridge, places like Eberacum, York, places like London, and lots of Roman towns and cities would have needed bridges. They would have had this bottom section, okay, and then the superstructure above would have actually been made of wood. But we do believe, I believe, that the original Old London Bridge was actually made out of, all made of stone, because it was still standing. It was still standing by 1014, okay, which indicates to me that what they were probably pulling down was not a timber structure, but a stone structure. But that's something else. If a bridge was constructed in the Roman period, and it's still standing in the Anglo-Saxon period, it's likely that it was all made of stone. That's what I think, anyway. There's also more evidence of a Roman bridge that could have been all made of stone, standing between Corbridge and York, Hadrian's Wall and York, a place called Pierce Bridge. They may have all been made out of stone, but that's another story altogether. Nothing like this still stands in Britain, and the reason why nothing like this still stands in Britain is that most Roman cities, if they ever had all complete stone bridges, the bridges would have just been allowed to decay. And the reason why they're allowed to decay is vis-a-vis the following reason. When you look at places like Caridian, Cirencester, we've got archaeological evidence saying that by about 450s, the Roman city of Caridian had been abandoned by the Roman administration completely. We know that because there are bodies left in gutters rotting. We've got skeletal remains in gutters and drains in Caridian, okay, because they just abandoned the city. If you're an Anglo-Saxon, you're a Roman wanting to re-establish the city, you're going to say, oh, I'm not going in there, it's all full of disease, we're just going to go somewhere else. The Anglo-Saxons think, oh, we're not going in there, we'll go somewhere else. And if there's any bridges over rivers that are all made of stone, or stone and timber, same thing, they're just going to be left to their own devices. It's the same with aqueducts. Any stone-built aqueducts in Britain would have just been left, job done.
Where is that then, if you said it's not in Britain?
Oh, that's Montpellier in France, a place called Bruxelles.
That first one you showed us, were those buildings residential?
Yes.
Commercial?
Residential, commercial, everything. Actually, the concept of residential, commercial, if you back in the day, you would live alongside where your stuff is. You know, you've got a shop downstairs, you live above. That's it. That's your answer to your question. That's how society was in Britain until really recently. You can remember, George. My grandparents lived in a house that up until the 1940s was a shop, and it was on the corner. All places in the valleys had the corner shop, and people lived above. That's the answer to your question. It's the same concept, but obviously they're not living on a bridge, George.
One on Cowbridge Road used to sell newspapers.
Yeah.
The Monmouth Bridge has always been quite famous, in Monmouth.
Ah, yes! Where you've got a beautiful gateway as you go in. Yes.
But I don't know if
That's going to date back to the medieval period, at least, I hope, I think. But anyway, what we've got here is this is the Roman fort at Pierce Bridge. And here's some of the barrack blocks. There's the roadway. There's the wall. There's some of the ditches. And there's some of the ditches. And lo and behold, and there's more of a settlement this side. Now, Pierce Bridge is over on this side is the River Tees by here. And basically, this road went out and further up here, all the way up here, a bridge went across the River Tees, across Deer Street, so Roman Road. And it's something really weird going on there, but we'll look at that now. And that is what we believe is one of the best preserved bits of a Roman bridge in a collapsed state, left, I'm struggling here with words, not standing anywhere in Britain. At one point, the river itself, the River Tees went through here, but what happened, the River Tees decided to move this way. So what's happening is, as the river's moving this way towards the settlement, which is on this side, and the fort's here, it's moving this side, and then the River Tees itself, all the mountains and the silt clog in between the piers, and everything is then left to its own devices. They probably should, and that's basically what is happening. It's just being left to its own devices. But was that all stone? Was it stone arched, or was it stone piers? Some archaeologists argue that it was all a completely stone bridge. There was an archaeologist known as Selkirk up until some years ago. He was so obsessed with trying to find a Roman complete stone bridge. He never really found it. He died before Time Team looked in the River Tees and found a wonderful timber bridge. It was a Time Team episode, just at this exact locality, but the River Tees is like here. But this is a stone example, and that's the best we've got of a bridge in Roman Britain. There is a military bridge, several military bridges along Hadrian's Wall, but again, that's another story, and that's another class. There you go. There's the divers. They invited Time Team along to this locality because it was being discussed that there was a timber bridge still left in the River Tees. That was when the Roman river sort of moved over, and they thought, all right, we'll have a timber bridge here, and some believe there would have been a stone bridge there as well. Anyway, moving on. When Time Team brought a program here, these three guys were obviously metal detecting on the sea bottom, the river bottom. No, they weren't. They were clearly diving. They were finding artifacts, recording every single one. Weren't using metal detectors at all because it was in the water, and they found hundreds, if not thousands, of Roman coins, Roman brooches, timber artifacts, absolutely everything. And they said to Time Team, "We've got all this right. Tell us the hell what's happening." And then they started cutting timbers. They got dendrochronology dates, and they worked out that there was a Roman bridge there as well, timber bridge. So there was 2 bridges, if not 3 bridges, all around this locality, and it was so obvious, the information, but nobody believed them. I mean, nobody really took them really seriously. But these divers carried on. Time Team had an episode about it, and lo and behold, we got another bridge as well, timber bridge.
It wasn't like a sacred thing to drop money in coins. It was just that it spilled out from somewhere.
Oh no, as I say, as you're crossing a river, you chuck a coin into it.
Who paid the ferryman? That song. Who paid the ferryman? Who paid the
No. Don't pay the ferryman. Blue oyster cult, don't even fix a price. Don't pay the ferryman until he gets you. Sorry, Bill.
Who is that?
What's that got to do with
That's my head. No, it's just the River Styx, you know.
River Styx.
Yeah.
It's the Roman story of River Styx.
Yeah,
And a partridge in a pear tree. Right. Now this itself is actually the Sweet Track in Somerset, found in 1970 by a certain guy. Guess what his name was?
Sticks.
It's called the Sweet Track, right? It was found in 1970. Guess who found it?
Mr.
Ray Sweet, correct.
Mr. Chocolate.
Shut up, you twonk.
They used to put pennies on the dead man to pay on their eyes, wasn't it?
What about the dead woman?
Yeah. You know, the dead sardine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good.
you're very pedantic today, aren't you?
Oh,
It was a big one, isn't it? Shut up.
Why don't you say the word phenotype
Phenotype.
or the genotype?
What's the genotype?
The phenotype is everything that's in the room, i.e. sat down, and the genotype is the interactions between everything in the room. Job done. This is actually the sweet track. So basically, you sat there, right, not doing anything. You're a phenotype. You talk to Bill, that's the genotype.
Right, and that was founded by Mr. Sweet.
No, not the genome phenotype. This was founded, yeah. Got me
Mr.
completely
Sweet.
digressing. This is the sweet
You walk
track.
on that.
Pardon?
You walk on that.
Yeah, you can walk on that. Have you?
Can you walk on it?
Yes, you can. Now, one interesting thing about these trackways is lots of them in archaeology have known. Some have been found. The more recent one in 2009, whilst they were doing work near Belmarsh Prison, near the River Thames, and Belmarsh Prison is famous for a very famous person who's just been let out from there. And they found there another track which dates to over 6,000 years ago. Some of the earliest tracks. Now, you can't imagine getting sheep along there, right? Or a cow. So what's going on there? Maybe everything's going on. Maybe they're just building these things any willy-nilly into the landscape. They might be linking them from A to B. They might be fishing off them because there would be water under here at one point. But lots of these were used for a very, very short period of time. And that's very interesting to remember. But it's also very interesting to remember that you must not take archaeologists seriously when they say, we found archaeologists of the Sweet Track is the most important discovery ever, right? Our ancestors are so brilliant for making these things, right? And then another archaeologist comes along and says, if all this material is ready to use, and I don't know how they come to this calculation, if all the timber and everything's ready to use, right, you can build a 2-kilometre stretch of this in one day.
Why have they built it like that then?
This is how they're constructed. Basically like that, another one there and a beam.
How do they know?
Oh, because we found the archaeological evidence of these complete.
Hang on, you're talking about Neolithic, aren't you?
Yes.
That's what?
Yeah, no, it's peat bogs, anaerobic conditions.
And where is
Found
it?
that.
Yes.
Like that in the peat bog.
Well, obviously in a collapsed state, but in 1970, yeah. What they happened, they started draining the. Oh, right, no, it wasn't actually found like that. No.
That's the point in it. It's modern.
Yes, that's a reconstruction.
Was it in Somerset, did you say?
Somerset, you are. Yes, Somerset. Go on,
We
Dorothy.
had a bridge like that in Bridgend, and you could just do one step in front of, you couldn't do your 2 feet together. And it was black like that. And it was named after the shop it came from.
Hang on, wasn't it? It was near you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in Dunraven Place.
It's no longer there now, is it?
No, you had the old stone bridge, and
Yeah.
then you had this black slanted.
Hang on, they
bridge
didn't.
like
That was there a few years ago, wasn't it?
Well, that it's gone, but it's.
Yeah, I think I can remember that.
Recently, it's I've taken the kids on it, like
Yeah, but that was in the Victorian period,
That's
wasn't it?
50 years ago.
Yeah, I think I can remember. Anyway, let's move on. They found lots of these in the archaeology, and they've excavated them. And it said that if you've got all the timber ready and waiting, ready, sort of IKEA'd ready, this entire length can be a 2-kilometre length, which they believe the Sweet Track went over, could be constructed in just a single day by 10 individuals. As if everything's ready there. And I'm thinking that's absolutely amazing. But then, when you go back to what I've already said, our ancestors did these things. It was no great achievement to them. They're nothing majorly special. And what they are is trackways for a specific purpose. And that's exactly what a modern bridge is. A modern bridge is something that is built to go from A to B, and that's all they're constructed for. They're not meant to be special, and our ancestors were doing the same thing. So you're insulting them when you're excavating things like this and saying, oh wow, this is major. They must have really tried hard to build this. No, they didn't. They did it every day. And there were literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these dotted across marshy, peat boggy areas at one point in Britain. They just did them, got on with it, that's it. George, when you were building, do you ever expect anyone to slap you on the back every single time and say, what an amazing job, you're so amazing for doing that?
No.
Exactly, that is exactly the point. I don't expect that when I'm doing this, right? It's what I do, it's what George does. Whatever, every one of us does. And the point is, what I'm saying, in the archaeology, we overplay what we're seeing. We make too much of it. We should say that they're doing these things, and they're like us. That's what we should be connected with. They did it for a reason, and we shouldn't jolly it.
Yeah, it's like it's almost the elitist value system.
Yes.
Architects, you know.
Oh yes, don't I know it? Don't I know it? I've been having to do that for the past 2 months. Right. Okay. This bridge itself. Dorothy, picking on you. How wide do you think this bridge is?
3
Wide.
foot.
Is
Wide across it.
Length or
Wide, you said? You
Wide.
said wide,
Yeah.
not the length.
3 feet?
Yeah,
Why'd you say that?
because it don't look very big.
I've had estimates of 14 feet.
Yeah, I go between 12 and 14.
Would you?
You mean the width?
The
Yeah.
width of it.
Oh, he's talking about
The width. The width.
Yeah, the width, yeah.
The width.
3
The
foot.
width.
3 foot.
Actually, do you know?
What do you call it? We're getting a bit confused here.
The
There to there.
Yes, I go 14 to maybe 16 feet.
George, I'm going to surprise you on this one. Dorothy's right. It's no more than 3 foot width.
Well, the funny old angle we get.
It's a footbridge, isn't it?
It's not even a footbridge.
3 foot wide.
It's not even, basically, this is for droving. That's all it was constructed for. It's not for people to walk across, it's for droving.
Taking a cattle across.
Yeah, that's it. That's its primary purpose. There it is. Can you see that's the way it looks.
Oh, blimey, look at that.
It is.
That's odd.
It's rough.
It's rough.
It's just a weird looking arch on the left anyway.
Yeah.
And there it is. Dorothy, you are so right. And that dates, that's probably 800 years old.
And where's that?
There's a certain, the place name is so weird, I can't really, but we'll come on to it anyway. But that's in Lancashire.
Yeah.
The other arch looks like a Friday afternoon.
Not rotten stall.
No. There you go, bridges. This is associated with a monastic site. Obviously, all that's silted up and bogged up. But the one thing about bridges is that I made a silly statement today, which I don't think is a silly statement. I said that if you think of a bridge, you don't necessarily have to think of a bridge as having a specific use. Vis-a-vis this, Llantrithid Place in the Vale of Glamorgan, there's a wonderful building. A building that was a manor house, a wonderful manor house, and is ruined, it's lost its roof and all the rest of it. But there was an Italianate walkway there, and you've got, they deliberately cut from below to create an arch. So you've got the rest of the walkway, another cut. They didn't have to put those cuts there at all, but the bridge is there for aesthetic reasons, to make it look like continental. So that the point is, you can have bridges for all sorts of things, just a little bit of a walkway to get away from the house. And that is a clapper bridge. The biggest problem with clapper bridges is they're practically impossible to date, because it's not going to take much to have 2 or 3 stones in a little bit of a stream, one side, and 2 or 3 stones on the other side, and put a slab across it. Simple.
That looks a bit like the does it?
Ah, the one at Castle upon Allen.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I used to go there on a regular basis before coming to this class, until I realised that every time I was parking there, this guy would get out, and this other woman would get out, and they would disappear, and all I would hear would be, "Don't tell your husband, don't tell your wife," and I thought, I'm getting involved in something here. And one day I drove off, and the next day I parked there. This guy came out with his daughter. He turned around and said to the woman, "Did you realise that this is your daughter?" And she got into the car and drove off and started crying. So on that note, I didn't want to be there anymore. It was like listening to Coronation Street. But down by there in Castle upon Allen, the point being, Bill, is there's one of these, a clapper bridge.
There's one near Surrey, a few near Surrey.
Yes, there is. You've been with me down there, yes. There's 2 down. There's
Not as grand as that, but sooner as that.
yeah, just over it, job done. And a partridge in a pear tree.
That's one stone then.
No, there's several stones. No, there's oh yeah, there's a pier there, stone pier, stone pier, stone pier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's one stone. It's a flag. It's a slab. Shut up. Right.
Pardon me.
I think you should.
Well, yeah.
Right. So the point is with all this sort of genre of things is locally down at Llantrith Major Church. in about 1790. The local antiquarian, who did absolutely nothing for Welsh history at all, or archaeology, being really cynical there, a guy by the name of Iolo Morgannwg Edward Williams, and as he was doing his looking around, there was a little clapper across a stream, I think it's the River Ogby in Lantwick Major. He looked at it, he thought, there's something not quite right about it, turned it around. It's now Star Place at the Stones Museum. It was a carved stone. They put the inscriptions downward and used the top bit as a walkway across the clapper. So it preserved the inscriptions. Thanks. The Stones Museum down in Lantwick Major Church, the gallery. Yeah. So it's in there. So he couldn't have been such a nutcase after all, because he saved a wonderful carved stone and is now on display thanks to Iolo Morgannwg. And this will be familiar to, I do believe, 3 of you in the room. Similar. The 3 of you have been here, and Dirty Rog was with us looking at it.
Oh, last year in Norfolk. No, not Norfolk.
Cornwall! I've been corrected on that, yeah. It's known as something Whistle. Lost Whistle.
Oh, Lost Whistle.
Withil. Anyway, at this wonderful location at Lost Whistle is that you've got this bridge. And bridges can be used for other purposes. In the American Civil War, for example, many battles were fought across various rivers in America, and they were always fighting over bridges. So if we get to the other side, that's brilliant. And in British history, we're dotted with bridges having significance. The Boadicea, for example, is known to have set light to Southwark, which is on the south bank of the River Thames. She's known to have set light to that. How and why do we know that? Well, the archaeologists have been excavating recently in Southwark over the past decade. And while they've been excavating in Southwark, they thought, that's a bit strange. Why is it we got a thick black layer across the Roman archaeology here, which is exactly the same as on the other side? On the other side, when we see the thick black layer of charcoal on the other side of the River Thames, the north side, we always say that Boudica come here in AD 61 and she set light to the city. Exactly the same layer as on the other side. And they didn't think the same layer was on the other side because the Roman bridge hadn't been built by then. The Roman bridge must have been built by then, because exactly the same on the south is the same as the north. And that proves that Boudica set light to the south of London because of the Roman bridge. Thanks to the Romans. Thank you very much. Lost Whistle itself is another story altogether. Two great kings defended 2 great bridges in Britain. Actually, think about Stirling as well in Scotland, a few other things. But anyway.
The bus parked the other side.
Yes, it did.
We walked across.
You walked across, yes. This bridge was defended by King Charles I on 2 occasions in the British Civil War. And guess who won? King Charles I. He didn't win many battles in the British Civil War, but he won 2 battles in Cornwall. That's why the king managed to keep hold of Cornwall, because of this bridge. And which other king managed to keep hold of a bridge and defeat a big army and then get defeated at the Battle of Hastings in 1066 on the 14th of October? A certain Harold. Harold defeated the Vikings at the Battle of Stamford Bridge on the 25th of September 1066. Job done. So bridges also come into a military perspective as well. There's many battles associated with bridges.
I think they...
Oh, the Battle of the Boyne. Well, yeah, that was. Oh, we don't want to talk about that. That was quite horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit religious.
Yeah, we don't want to do religion. We might get the Muslims in here next week. Did I actually say? Right. Does anyone know where this is?
It's the old bridge of Pontypridd.
It is the old bridge.
It's on your arm.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was on my arm. I tried to cover it up.
I thought you, I agree, yes, I know that.
It's the old bridge at Pontypridd.
I've never seen from that, but the new bridge behind it. I've never seen from that.
No, the bridge behind was built in 1857. This bridge was built in the 1856. 1756. 1756, 1857. So basically 100 years apart.
What's there now? They're both there.
They're still there now, yeah. But we had a discussion about this in Lantwick Major, and we basically said it's a big shame that this bridge, the other bridge, was built so close to it, because in a way it destroys the aesthetic of this amazing bridge, which is over 40 meters in span, which at the time was the widest span bridge anywhere in the world. Okay, other ones may have been built in the Roman period, but they didn't survive. This is the biggest span of a bridge, and I was told as well by a local historian that, can you see that there? There may have been another eye as well to take the load of this bridge. So you've got a big eye here, which is Brian Davis mentioned, which is now covered up. You've got the other eye here, a medium-sized eye, a small eye, and these are all load-bearing. The guy who built it went slightly off brief. Okay, he ran out of money and basically had to build a narrower bridge. And when the bridge was opened, everybody said, "Look, it's a marvel of the ages, an absolutely brilliant bridge from this side. It looks wonderful." But unfortunately, when you're going across it, you can only get one person this side, and so there was a problem. He had achieved something. The problem is, if he had built a wider bridge, it may not have taken the pressure. These are actually taking all the weight. All the load bearing is going against the arch itself. All the weight is going against the arch. And when the other weight is displaced against this one, it goes against that one. More weight goes on that one, and it's able to take the load. That's what that's about. So arch to support an arch. That's the principle. And this guy was a self-taught stonemason. Got that one out.
It's not far from the electrical.
It is wonderful, isn't it?
It's down in a flat.
I see what you're saying there, yeah. See what you're saying.
Are you sure of Bridgend Bridge?
Oh, no, we're not.
No.
Because we see it every day.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
I don't, I know.
That's a nice picture of it.
But this is done by a certain Mr. T.W. Turner, and he's, if anyone is,
Artistic license.
unfortunately, if you're trying to copy, if you're using this as a copy form to build a bridge, right, your bridge will collapse. Because T.W. Turner made the classic mistake of these holes being more or less the same perspective, meaning that they're not going to carry the weight. That one needs, this one clearly really needs to be displaced by this one. This needs to be twice the size, and the weight needs to be going up against it, and that's what Turner missed out. So he made that mistake. But then again, he can't get it all right. There it is again. And there's that. Right, so, if anyone's interested, this Sunday, the 16th of July, 12 o'clock, we've got a Roman walk. You can all dress up in costume, and it's only £2.50. Dorothy, you can turn up in costume. A Roman thong and a thing will do. Or you can wear a thong. What?
Where is it?
St. Nicholas Church
Oh.
in Barry. Right, anyway. What we're going to do, I don't want a long break today because I'm very wary that some of us can't stay forever. We should be finishing today at 20 past anyway, even though we had to slightly later to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tiny little break there, only for 5 minutes, for a wee break. Everyone.